When you draw up those plays for T-Mac to throw the ball,
Yep.
it doesn't initially go the way it's supposed to, and then he starts improvising. Yep. What is going through your mind as a coach?
Well, I think one of the things we talk about all the time is when it's a special play, it needs to go to special players. Those are high risk, high reward. When you put it in like T-Mac's hands, you feel comfortable that if it doesn't go perfectly, that he will make it right. And I'd say that's the biggest thing, is just philosophically trying to make sure that those special plays are going to special players.
David?
What if you identified, Matt, that are some of the issues with the inside run game right now? It looks like there's times when guys are going to the second level and not blocking the first level. What are you seeing there?
Well, I think a huge part of that is the shuffles that we've had to make just personnel-wise. And we have a bunch of players that we are really excited about that are getting experience right now. And the one thing that's nice is as it's shuffled, especially when you look at it from an individual level, you're seeing improvements from individuals. Now, it doesn't help sometimes when you've got to shuffle and it feels like you're kind of developing people. But I do think that Coach Oglesby is doing a great job developing those guys. Some of them are in a spot that, I don't know if we anticipated at the beginning of the year, but they're coming in and they're doing a nice job and they're getting better each week.
And is it exacerbated when obviously you got young guys out there that haven't played, but you have a veteran like Josh who maybe doesn't have a great game?
Well, Josh is one of our leaders, and nobody ever plays a perfect game, and it's something we talk about as an offense all the time. We're just trying to pursue perfection while understanding that we will not accomplish it. And so I'm with Bake every single rep, and he has my full support. There's a couple that I think he might like to have back, but with that being said, he also did a lot of great things for us in that game, and you can say that for anybody. I mean, even the headliners, you know what I mean? Some of our top players, there's a few that they wish they had back too, and that's just kind of the case with football. It's never going to be perfect.
Brian?
So I assume you do the scripting of plays to the start of the game. When that first drive doesn't go as long as expected, either because it's a 3 and out or this past game with quality fumbling, do you continue the script or do you start over?
I think it's a good question. I think that's something that I won't necessarily talk about when we come off or when we come on the script. What I will say is that we put a lot of time and energy into a lot of different categories and trying to get in front of situational football, and when we get there, making sure that we have answers. When it comes to those scripts, and there's not even really an answer because it's fluid.
Okay.
Sometimes you come out and they're in what you think they're going to be in, and so you kind of stay on schedule and script. Sometimes they come out and you've got to pivot, and you might get on or off those things faster or quicker.
I guess what I was getting at was, is there a way to script future series?
No.
No?
I mean,
It's too reactive?
No, I mean, there is and there isn't. And, you talk to a lot of, I've been fortunate just with professional development to talk to a lot of different play callers, and there's a lot of different philosophies that way. I will tell you that we do a number of things to try and get ahead of what we could potentially see.
Justin?
So the two guys that we just talked to, Jonah and T-Mac, when NFL scouts or anyone who's representing an NFL team come up to you and say, tell me about these two guys, what are you telling them?
Oh, I mean, they're fantastic, and they're two guys that I'm stoked are on our football team, and I think anybody at the next level would be really excited to get them. They're both extremely competitive, and their football IQ is crazy high. I mean, T-Mac at times has said things to me about football that like a Division I coach would say to me, and the way that he's able to see the game is insane. And then Jonah's just dependable. Both those guys do an awesome job of bringing competitive energy no matter what the circumstance. I think anybody at the next level would be lucky to have either of them.
Michael?
2 questions for you.
Yep.
Jonah said that he pretty much hadn't practiced at all at left tackle before he went in the first time this season. I think it was game 1 or game 2,
Yep.
where you guys just had to move him over there. What does it say about him that he was able to do that?
Well, anytime you're in those spots, you're trying to find the kids you trust the most to do the hardest things, right? And so, kind of going back to your trick question is when we come to those critical moments or we need to quickly do something, you're going to put your trust in the guys you trust the most. And the other part is I always say the only way that you get good at playing football is by playing football. Just the amount of reps you accumulate. And obviously Jonah has a lot accumulated. And so when you get in that spot and you're trying to make a move, you're going to go to a guy with a bunch of experience, which he has a bunch of.
Right. And then the second question was T-Mac. We were asking about like why the offense was better in the fourth quarter the other day than kind of it had been. And he said we felt like we had nothing to lose at that point, and I interpreted that as that maybe they're relaxing a little bit more, not putting pressure on themselves. Is that something that you can convey to them as a coaching point or something to get them kind of to play? He said if we play like that the whole game, we'd have better results.
Yep. That's so hard to quantify. And, because momentum and the way a game feels and kind of the lens you see it when you watch the film, they're two different things. You look at that game, we had 8 drives, which is abnormal. The week before we had 11, the week before that we had 10. So just less opportunity. In those drives, we had 2 3-and-outs where we need to execute better. Outside of that, we moved it pretty good every single drive. Hugh has the fumble. That's really abnormal for that kid. We've obviously been with him for a long time. He's one of those guys that we feel like we can trust. And it doesn't make me lose any trust in him. If anything, knowing Q, he will be better for it moving forward in terms of the way he takes care of ball security. And then we had another drive where a holding sets us back, and then we have a drop. And so outside of that, I was happy with the way that we moved the ball. Just being consistent in those spots, so we're not talking about those 4 drives that went poorly, but the 4 drives where we were able to move it, be efficient. Another positive, Noah didn't throw any interceptions. I felt like we were able to protect him much better in this game. And the run game wasn't never a negative for us. And there was at times there was a little bit left out there, but we weren't taking TFLs in that space, which kept us on schedule, which allowed for us to be a little bit more aggressive. And so from my lens, when I'm looking at it, those are the things that matter to me. Because when we're picking up first downs and touchdowns, it's going to be, the energy is going to go, the feel is going to go, all of those kind of things that are a little bit more abstract.
Troy?
As you guys prepare for Central Florida, they're going through defense coordinating change. So how do you prepare for a defense when there is a change like that, and how many changes can you expect mid-season from a defense, even though there is that coaching change?
So the thing that I always tell our offense, and it's always about us. We run very little schemes that only work against one thing. We run a lot of schemes that if we execute it right, we should be able to take care of a lot of the looks that we might see. And so regardless, when we've been at our best, when we've been at our worst, I feel like it comes back to our execution, not necessarily what the defense is doing. Now, with that being said, it is an interesting situation. Trying to figure out, what changes might be, what can you get done in a week, all of that is interesting, and I think it's a little bit of wasted energy if we spend too much time doing that, because once again, the focus needs to be on us and us executing in order for us to have success. And the bigger concern is their personnel, and they've got 2 interior kids who are really, really good players. And we need to do everything that we can to make sure we're putting ourselves in a great position to handle those 2 interior kids. And it doesn't matter who's calling it. You know what I mean? When we changed over, it didn't matter. You still have to cover T-Mac, right? Like, those issues aren't going to change based on who's calling it.
Dave?
2 plays, Matt, I wanted to ask
Yep.
you about. The one where T-Mac threaded it to the 19-yarder Noah threaded it to T-Mac on the 19-yarder. He threw it, like, literally there were 3
Yep.
guys there.
Yep.
He put it in the middle. What did you like about that throw, and did you think that's his best passes?
It's hard. The one to key at Utah was special, but I think a little bit because of the timing maybe, and what it meant to that football game. But that's where, you know, we all feel in this program an incredible responsibility to get him protected because he can do stuff like that, and especially the connection that those two have. And so I wasn't surprised by it. You know, you see it every single day in practice. You see those two kids working together, and I was more so happy with our ability to give him the time and to be comfortable and to be able to make that throw.
And on the flip side, the sack he took at the goal line in the third quarter that Wooten gave up, it looked like he was looking at Olsen over the middle, but he also had Jeremiah on and out. Do you think he should have made one of those plays? Could he have made one of those plays?
Yeah, I mean, those are the spots we're trying to steer clear of in terms of making sure that we're taking care of 11 the right way. With that being said, like, yeah, and that goes back to the point about Baker is like, nobody's going to play a perfect game. And there's a story in terms of like Jerry Rice trying, he graded himself in first whole entire career, he just wanted to play one perfect game. And his whole entire career, he didn't play one perfect one. And so I always tell the guys that story because I'm like, if he can't do it, then why are you doing it? And they're going to make mistakes. And obviously he bounced back and was the reason why we were able to rally and do what we were able to do towards the end of the game.
Justin?
So what are your plans this week for recruiting? Are you going to be out on the road when you guys get to Florida? And what are the benefits of recruiting that state?
Yeah, I mean, we have, I'm not allowed to talk. Yeah, we will be out as much as we can, and especially traveling early like the way we are. And if we can get as many kids to Florida, we'll take them because speed is the number one thing. And obviously that is what Florida is notorious for. And so as many of those guys as we can get is fantastic.
Last question to Brian.
You kind of alluded to it with the run game. That was what West Virginia was probably best known for, but you were still going at it, even though you knew that was the strength of their defense. Is it important to not scheme away from an opponent's strength on defense? That you still need to establish whatever they're good at?
Well, I think there's a balance each week that way. And really trying to make sure that we are putting ourselves in the best position to remain on schedule and to play efficient football so that we can be aggressive down the line. And so, and some of those things have multiple options to them. Some of those things are not necessarily, the ball could go different places. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to make sure that the ball goes to the right place based on what the defense presents to us. And so, and once again, going back to, we need to do what we need to do and make sure that we are executing at a high level, because we are in the Big 12 and every single defense is good and every single defensive coordinator is good. And you keep on turning on the tape and defensive line is a strength. The next week, defensive line is a strength. The next week, defensive line is a strength. And that's not going to stop. And this is why you want to be at this level, to have these types of challenges. And so we have to continue to make the best decision based on what we think we can do with our players to put them in the best position to be successful.